Okay.
We're on. Hi guys.
Hello. Hello
Back
again. Matt's here and Nathan, of course. So, this is obviously the second video that we're doing from Premier Group regarding our detailing processes and a bit of a rundown and explanation on what some of it is, what we do and what we use, and some tips and pointers what you can do yourself at home as well. So, we had a guy asked last week regarding clay mitts. So this is part of the decontamination process, as it's known. This comes after the washing process, and it's kind of a middle stage before you inspect the paint and perform your machine polish. There's a few ways you can go around this. I think there's three key things that people usually do regarding this. First of which is usually the tar removal process after the washing process. So if you want to just show what we've got here.
It's a bottle that's used every day, but we tend to top it up using the trigger spray bottle. It's just for ease of use, really. It's less messy.
Okay. Do you want to talk a little bit about tar removal?
Yeah, we can do.
Yeah.
Crack on. So tar remover essentially is a mixture of various different solvents. These tend to soften the tar spots on the side of your car. if you spray enough of it on, one key way that you're going to see that it's working is it'll bleed a browny colour, raining from the point of where each tar spot is. What we tend to do, especially if it's quite a severe amount of tar, is we dampen a cloth with the tar remover, spray it on the affected area, and then you simply use the cloth and wipe away. In many cases, the tar there can be quite a substantial build up there. You can have big blobs, more stubborn blobs. So it's best to be patient. Go in a bit of a circuit with the product. Use it, wipe away. Use it, wipe away. Give it a bit of dwell time between wiping and spraying, obviously. But I think that's as much as you can take it with tar remover, isn't it?
There's not too much to say. I mean, the only other thing to mention is that regards to tar, it can come from a multitude of places. Usually just kicks off the road, especially fresh laid tarmac and things as well. Of course, when you go to remove tar, the important reason of why you want to remove it before you start the polishing process is it can harbour grit and dirt, potentially sharp objects, foreign objects which you don't want to run your machine polish over, because this will only get picked up in the pad and it will spin around across the paint, and generally it can cause some horrible scratches and damage on your vehicle as well. And with regards to that, kind of why Nathan has said get your cloth wet in it. It's going to add some lubricity when you're removing it as well. Bigger bits will need a couple of hits of the tar to soften them up, because you don't, even though you've done it as safe as possible, you don't want to be then, as you're removing it across the paint with your cloth, you don't want to be, if there's grit in there, getting it across the paint and again causing it before you've even done the polishing as well. So it sounds easy, but you need to be careful. Just keep an eye on things as you're doing tar removal as well. So the other thing as well, just to mention about tar, it's usually called tar and glue remover. So if you do find you've got certain things on your car that's not just tar, some vandal in some cases, depending on the type of paint that someone might have sprayed on your car, or you've got on your car fence paint, your neighbour sprayed it across, because it dissolves solvents and softens a lot of things up that usual cleaning products don't. It's good for getting other things off your vehicle as well. One of the things we use it as well is, because obviously with it being a repair centre, we sometimes have to use a wipeable marker on the glass or something, just to say what's going on with the vehicle. It's brilliant for removing things like that as well, because it just melts it and breaks it down for a nice easy removal as well.
So it's got a lot of purpose to it. So
it
disperses quite a lot of things and breaks things down. Another one is obviously if it's a glue remover, it's pretty self-explanatory, but
in a lot of places really.
Unwanted stickers. Sometimes people have bought a car and it's got a
window sticker.
Window sticker on the back, like self-advertisement for the forecourt that it would have been bought from. Probably many owners previous. And it's a great product to remove what gets left behind after that, which can kind of look a bit tacky, and it literally will melt it away, wipe away. It's fantastic.
Yeah. So if you want that clean look on your glass, it's fantastic to get any sticker residue off, basically, isn't it? Or
Yeah.
you can try a lot of things, see what works for you. I've found probably 1,000,001 things it's worked on. It doesn't leave anything behind. Just wipe it off. It flashes away. You know, it doesn't leave any nasty residue behind, which is quite nice as well.
It's great for really oily. We've done quite a few commercial vehicles where we've done like quite a deep clean, and the back ends tend to take on the worst wear and the most dirt, and in some cases there've been some quite seriously black oily stains all up plastic sheeting, the inside of the paintwork on the panels of the van, and again that stuff you spray it on, wipe it away, and it just seems to cut through it like there's no tomorrow. So
yeah. So hello Darren, we've got a comment from yourself. So removing tar, fast and easy. So apologies if you just missed the start of the video. We'll just go over this again briefly for you as well. So we were just talking about the tar removal. So the actual products that me and Nathan use here at Premier is called Just the Tonic. It's from Auto Brights Direct, so it's a bit of a worn out bottle. You can get it from their website, their trade van, multitude of resellers stock it as well. We like it because, as you've asked, fast and easy. Spray it onto the affected area. You'll see the black spots of tar or whatever you're trying to remove will literally start to bleed brown or black. That's how you know it's active. What this is doing is softening the tar. Spray a microfiber cloth, wipe the area. Not too hard, not too vigorous, because as I mentioned a moment ago, you might find there's some grit hiding inside that tar, so be careful removing it. You don't want to be forcing that across your paint, and causing potential scratches as well, which can be sometimes irreversible.
Gentle's the best approach in most cases, unless you know otherwise or feel certain about it. I think it's best as well to highlight I forget the name of the chap who asked last time about the clay mitts specifically. Obviously the reason we're going to get to that point, but we're sharing our experiences with various products that do the same thing I think the key point here is a safer level.
Yes. So, like Nathan's saying, not the easy method. Sorry, the softest approach to detailing is generally the followed method for it. You don't just jump in with a clay bar as some people will do. Do your tar, do your fallout remover first, which we'll talk about in a second, before you start doing.
I think also things. While we're on answering Darren or replying to Darren, if we're going to be straight with you, the fast and easiest way to remove tar is to clay it. But again, the reason why we're bringing up these products is because in some cases, especially outside in cold weather at the moment, using clay, it can be quite stiff. You're supposed to give it time between your hands. You're supposed to warm it through, aren't you, to soften it up so it becomes like a putty. So you're not rubbing a stiff brick against the side, a brick of the clay against the side of the paintwork. So fast and easy isn't always the best solution. You've got a safer option if you're willing to spend a few more minutes doing the job.
I'd agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Shall we move on to the next protocol?
Yes. So the next part of your decontamination process is going to be fallout remover. Now, we'll talk about this a little bit. Those of you who may already know what this is, the main thing about this stuff is it stinks. It's quite famous for that. It smells like sulphur, eggy smell. It's not pleasant. You can get some.
You've avoided the key word there.
Yeah.
Like a boss well
yeah. The main thing is you can get ones that smell nice, so they try and cover the scent and stuff, because it's not a pleasant stuff, but it's amazing for your paintwork and your vehicle wheels. Lots of uses for this. Again, the particular one we use, we like a lot of the Auto Bright products. So their stuff is called Purple Rain. Well, Purple Rain 3.0. It's their third release of the product. The latest version, the 3.0, it's a gel-based product, so it's a bit thicker. Now, the benefits of that is that when you spray it on your vehicle or affected area for fallout, wheels, paint, glass, whatever it may be, it dwells longer, it sits in place longer without running down, so it can do its job better, basically. So, what is fallout? This is a common question we see sometimes. A lot of people will use it as a wheel cleaner, because what its main thing is, it attacks iron particles, metal particles. So the reason people use it as a wheel cleaner, or on the wheels, you should clean your wheels first with a proper cleaner dedicated for it, then do the fallout, because it's very expensive otherwise, although it does look nice when it lights up purple and activates. Is obviously your brake pads, fallout from if you park your car near an industrial site, people doing welding, metal work, train tracks. There's loads of ways that fallout can get onto your car other than just what comes out your brake pads, down the side of your vehicle and into your wheelbarrows and brakes and all the other kind of lower areas. If you're using it on your paint, well, in fact, I've just chatted for too long now. I'll let Nathan take over on this part.
Yeah, so if you're using it on your paintwork, the clue's in the name, Purple Rain, and the way you're going to see it react is kind of similarly to how we've just described tar remover. You'll spray onto an affected area. First and foremost, you might notice it's a safe thing to add into your process if you're going to be decontaminating, just to eradicate if you're going to tar clay bar afterwards. You don't want to be moving metal particles around on the paintwork, even if you can't see them. But in some cases, before you apply the product, you can notice them, especially on certain colours of paint.
White cars,
especially. You're going to see tiny little specks of rusty colour.
It looks like rust, browny yellow dots.
Even if the metal particles that have landed on your paintwork are silver at the time, one amount of rain or water or a wash, he's going to rust them over anyway. So you're going to see tiny little orange spots in your paintwork. And what this stuff do, it'll react with similarly to how the tar remover reacts to tar, and it's going to light up anywhere that the fallout is sitting, and it'll light up purple. It depends really on the severity of how much it lights up on the paintwork.
Yeah.
I tend to use it, I'll spray it on liberally, I'll allow it to do its thing, so you're giving it enough dwell time to see the reaction take place, and then the safest option is to then jet wash that excess away. In some cases it might be more stubborn, so it's fair to say that it's safe. Not as safe as jet washing off, but to agitate
sometimes
the area.
agitation is required, or sometimes just a case of a second pass, a second hit of it after jet washing the first layer. Again, if you do need to agitate it, in some cases you will, depending on how bad the case of fallout on the car is. I'd probably say use your wash mitt. Don't use anything abrasive. Use a nice soft wash mitt again. Have it wet with a bit of probably shampoo solution, or even just spray some more fallout into the mitt, just so again it's smooth. You're not going to put a dry thing across the car, which can scratch the paint, of course. And use a clean mitt or a clean cloth. You don't want something with grit you've already used on there, obviously causing scratches into the paintwork as well. So the main reason these two things are important, again, like I mentioned before, machine polishing, is you're making a pure clean surface. So this is good because you get to inspect the paint for its true clarity before you decide what level of machine polishing might need to remove swirls and other things on the paint as well. So the third process of a decontamination, now it's not always required, sometimes it is a clay bar, as they call it. So this is literally, as it sounds, a bar of clay. It's specifically designed for automotive use on paint. I think it's originally invented to remove overspray. When you paint, that's what I heard about it as well.
I couldn't tell you the history. I just know that it's effective.
That's what I've heard. I don't know if it's a myth or a legend, but it can do that as well. So again, we always use Auto Bright products. Now this particular one, they actually do two grades. Again,
so this is one of the fine.
That's ones, a soft one, yeah. So this is what they call fine clay. If you do have both of theirs, the fine clay is white, and their heavy clay, as they call it, is a purple colour. So clay barring. So this again comes after tar and fallout removal. And the reason you do it afterwards is, as we've mentioned, you've already removed the bulk of the contaminants from said paint or surface. You don't want to be, going across a bit of tar which might have grit in it. You'll lift it off of the clay and then you're just mashing it around the paint.
Metal particles, which is most definitely going to put a line through
definitely. So Nathan just mentioned a little bit how this is used. So the idea is you want it soft, durable, to be able to mould it to a good shape as well. Usually, if you're going to use this, you don't want a huge amount. You probably want just enough to maybe cover, the fingers on your hand. You don't want too much because it can be expensive. I think this particular stuff is around £15 a bar, which I guess is an average price depending on where you get it as well. So
I think they sell items similar, other branded items in high street retailers that you're probably familiar with.
Yep.
And I think they tend to be about the same time, the same price. Although some of them come with a clay kit.
Yes. Some will come with what they call a clay lube, won't they? And some other items with it as well, or a cloth.
Quick detailer mist or something.
Yeah.
Which is what you were going to get onto.
Yeah.
Is
how you use it basically. Yeah. So just to mention fine and aggressive clay before I explain how these are used and what you kind of do with it. You sometimes need to up it to an aggressive clay because you might use the fine clay and see that it's maybe not removing what you'd expect it to, or it doesn't seem to work. Now you'll know when this stuff works because when you rub it across your paint, imagine you kind of rub this surface on the paint on the camera, you'll actually see it all start to go black, brown, it'll look really manky. You'll see it lifting stuff from the paint, so you know it's there. So what you do in that case is once you've worked a section, you would fold it in on itself, so you put all the muck on the inside, so you've then got a clean surface every time you fold it back the other way. You don't want to keep using the same point of contact across the paint, because anything you have picked up, you're just moving it across the next part and the next part. Yes, it's picking some up, but there could be some sharp stuff in there which is going to scratch and swirl your paint at the same time as well.
You want to be doing these checks frequently as you care to.
Yeah. You'll know when it's working because it'll feel rough. You'll hear it gliding across the paint first.
And feel.
And
you're going to feel what's the word? Friction, resistance.
Resistance. Sorry, that's the better word actually. But yes, we mentioned some kits come with clay lube. Now, what a lot of these are is it's usually like a quick detailer, as they call them, a spray which essentially lubricates the surface so it does glide across easy, don't get stuck in, because what happens is you cause what they call paint marring with these, which will lead on to a sec about clay mitts as well. So this is kind of fall into two topics into one really. It's all claying. But yes, you liberally apply to the surface, so you've got a nice smooth area to work with. Fold and check regularly. You don't want to be moving the stuff across the paint. You'll hear it will actually start to go silent. So when you've got it in your hand like this, running it across the surface, you'll hear some resistance. It will go quiet. You won't hear it no more. If you imagine you running your hand over sandpaper or that kind of sound by the microphone, it'll go quiet. It's worked then. You've got a nice smooth layer of paint to work with. That's kind of the basic rundown of claying essentially. Oh, the most important thing, if you drop it, chuck it in the bin. you don't want to reuse that bit. Don't matter how many times you fold it, you're going to have something in there which is going to scratch your paint that you dropped on the floor as well. So clay marring, I'll let Nathan explain about clay mitts, because we do have them here at work. I do prefer to use the clay, but sometimes, depending on what your next process is, if you are polishing, a mitt can save you some time as well, but there are some pros and cons against them.
I mean, it's to whoever's carrying out the process. If you're at home, if it's your own car, obviously there's risks in the long run when you get to the polishing process, but you want to be doing things the safest and gentlest way possible. It's something that the more you look into the detailing world, you'll hear the softest method first. You're going to hear words like this quite a lot because it's true, especially if you're learning, especially if you're trying something for the first time and you've seeked advice. Before we get on to clay mitts, we just covered the fact that, so we've already covered realistically that the clay that we've got here is the softer clay, which means obviously you can get a stiffer version of it.
Yeah.
And the harder the clay that you get, the
harder it works, I suppose.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
And with clay mitts, even with a hard clay, you can soften it. You're going to warm it between your hands. It's going to soften, perhaps not as much as the finer clay that we've got here as an example.
Bucket of water, even as well.
Yeah, some people do that. You get or a designated jug with warm water just to warm it through. So it'll flex and contour, if that's the right word, to the surface. Orange peel, anything on the surface, it's gonna flex to it while it's warm and flexible. Clay mitts, I do rate them because it's faster. You're not breaking off a piece of clay. You've got a better grasp of it, I think, because you're gonna have your hand inside of a mitt.
Yeah.
But one downside that I've found, and it doesn't always happen, I think it depends as well whether how hard or rough you are with it. But the clay that you've got on the front of the mitt is different because you're not warming it first, you're not softening it first. So however hard that is, that's how hard of that's how hard you're going to be rubbing the surface. If that makes sense. So in some cases, you might find even with stiff clay or in cold weather with any clay, if you're using it and you're using it rough and it's hard, you might notice if any of you are familiar with what orange peel looks like, you're going to get the peaks of the orange peel and they're going to look a little dulled afterwards, which is something that realistically you want to avoid, because when you then if you were to then be carrying out a polishing process afterwards or a correction of some description, you've already kind of shave. I think you're shaving away bits of lacquer or the outside of the paintwork, you know what I mean? And
it
you don't
looks
want to
like
be doing that.
sanding marks,
Yeah.
essentially. So where you might find this on your car if you're using aggressive clay or the mitts. Again, mitts come in different grades that I've seen as well. But a lot of it comes down to how well you lube that panel as well. A lot of people will just use their shampoo solution, which is the easy way of a clay mitts. It's dripping wet. You've got plenty of lubrication over there,
and it's absorbed into it's like when you're using this. I don't use a sponge, but if you're using a mitt in general or a washcloth or whatever your go-to is, you've still got more water and lubrication inside what you're using, so you then squeeze it for more soap. And the same would apply with the mitt as well for claying.
Yeah. So where we say it looks like flatting marks, where you might pick this up or cause this possibly, is like if you've got like a curved panel. Imagine my knuckle is maybe like a contour or a sharp edge, and as you're running across that, obviously you're going to have a lot more, like a thin point of contact. So you need to be careful running across those because that's where you'll cause it on curves and stuff where you're not, you're supposed fully flat with the surface of it as well. Again, but the main reason for claying or clay barring or clay mitting, I should say, is this all goes into the 3-step process to make sure that when you go to inspect or polish your paint, that it's completely decontaminant free. You don't want anything picking up in your pad, makes it dirty, it moves across the paint. And essentially, if you've got like a bit of dirt or grit in your pad as you're polishing it, and you're going across the panel, you might sit there thinking, hey, why have I not got this scratch or this swirl out? And chances are it's a contaminant. You're putting more damage back in as you're trying to fix whacking the table, fix what you're trying to fix in the first place. So it's a very important process or thing to get this right. When you're doing some detailing at home, or if you're a professional doing it at work as well. So after that, you move on to your paint inspection. Like I say, there might be some clay marring left behind. Don't worry about this part because that does polish out. It's not a problem. Don't think, oh God, I've done it wrong. It's not nothing to worry about. It's light marring usually. It will come out with even a light polish. Even if you're looking to not do a heavy correction on your paint, it'll come out with a finishing polish as well. It just brightens everything up again.
Yeah, I mean, if things like this worry you, that's why people like us exist. It's why we're in work. You know what I mean? You come speak to us, and it's something that we could carry out for you. I think this whole second video came about purely because of a question that someone asked. I think it was it after the video had ended last week. So
I think it was one of the comments after. Yeah.
How we replied last week to a couple of questions that popped up during the video, which again, if anyone does have any, feel free to ask.
Yep.
Might give us an idea for another video if we do one.
Yeah.
But the way that I answered a couple of questions last week was, when you're asking a question like that, it's a vague question and you don't realise it at the time. So we were asked, what's the best clay mitt? Is that what we were asked?
I think it may have been.
Would we recommend?
I think it was along the lines of, would you use a clay mitt, or what do you think about clay mitts? I think it was along those lines. I haven't got access to it right now. We would answer it accurately.
first and foremost, we need to. If someone was to ask us in person, my instant reaction would be, well, what do you want to achieve?
Yes.
So, and if your response was, well, I've got tar spots on my car, I've got what contaminants that won't come off during a wash process, then first and foremost, on a maintenance level, I'm going to reply with, you want to stock up with decontamination products like the tar remover and the fallout remover. And do that because on a maintenance level, that's what you would be using. You don't necessarily need to be cleaning. It's like if a customer's come to us and we've done a couple of stages on the paintwork, we've maybe applied a coating of some description. We wouldn't then be advising them to grab a clay mitt or anything like that, to be rubbing the surface and essentially wearing away our hard work and their money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So on a maintenance level, you'd want to be using the products that we've suggested. If you're asking the question because you've invested in a polisher of some description, you're thinking of carrying out something at home, then it depends on the level of decontamination. But I think first and foremost, Matt would strongly advise you want to use these products first anyway to remove, because again, if you're going to be using a clay of any description, you're going to be picking up contaminants and moving them further on the paintwork, and if any of those are sharp contaminants, then you might cause further damage before you've even started.
Yeah, so known as a chemical decontamination, basically. Clay's not always required.
Summarise,
that's basically the best way to put it. Chemical decon or physical decon perhaps afterwards, mechanical some people call it. So yeah, Nathan's pretty much summed up the rest of that there for us basically. We have got a question from Ross. Hello Ross. Main thing that I get asked is what's the difference between single stage and a 2-stage or a 3-stage. So this is referring to your machine polishing, which of course comes after your decontamination processes. Now, this has got a lot of interpretation.
I was going to say it depends. You can be paying for essentially the stages. Just to break it down on the simplest term, one stage you're going around the car with a product, or you're carrying out a process of some description to correct the paintwork. If you're doing that in 2 or 3 stages, you're going to be lapping you're going to be going around the car a couple of times,
Yeah.
So first and foremost, a single stage is quite simple.
It's usually, I can probably sum it up quite basic on this part, just on the simple terms for now, but obviously kind of how we're doing these videos, we're kind of, if we haven't got questions to answer throughout them, the idea is we're going to kind of go from start to finish with detail and talk about each process. So we will cover this a lot more in probably the next episode. But to answer Ross's question, I would refer to a single stage, and I think
this is the most similar across
the board. And what you'll find is a single stage is usually a medium to fine polish,
or a one step
as some people call it. Yes, and there's products that will be called one-step polish. Some won't follow this branding or name process, but if you just read the bottle, you'll be like, oh, that's probably the one that people would use for what they call a single stage or a one-step polish. So a medium or fine polish. Now, what a stage refers to is essentially how many, I suppose, passes you're doing over the vehicle. A single stage polish is one stage of polishing. Usually it's finding the right combination of pad and polish to do one polish across the car. A medium or fine polish, what you'll find is, again, depends on paint hardness and stuff we'll talk about next time, but the majority of the cases you'll probably achieve, I think on average, people usually quote around 70 to 80% paint correction
I think
removal of swirls.
When we start entering paint correction as a subject, it's hard to answer with an 100% answer.
Yeah.
But more often than not, a single stage or a one-step polish can achieve visually to you, the customer, I would say would achieve the most substantial difference that you're going to see. But in many cases, it depends on the severity of the scratches that you're going to be removing. I think overall,
every car's different. Like I say, all paint hardness is different. Some cars where I just mentioned you'll use a medium to fine polish. You use it on one car. Japanese cars generally have quite soft paint, Fords as well. You'll try it on a Volkswagen, Beamer, Audi, and it won't do jack. It's not going to do enough of what you expect and get the clarity that you response. So Ross is just following up with all-in-one AIO, all-in-one, for those that don't know what that means. All-in-one step polish to remove minor imperfections, imperfections in the paint. Best to use a pad that can cut and finish. So again, pads have stiffness or aggressive levels. You get lots depending on what your brand. There's loads to choose from, which is why we'll kind of dedicate another episode to this. An example, there's a couple that we use here. So we mentioned that we are Cartec accredited for their ceramic installation and stuff like that as well. They do also provide a really good polishing system. So for a single stage, was it Cartec? Is it 6000, the white one? 9000 is the finishing polish, I believe, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think it's called Cartec 6000.
Mm-hmm.
It's the white branded bottle from them, and this would correspond with their white pad. So most brands do a colour code system, don't they?
That's why I can never remember. People ask me the name of a product, and I just know I know what works.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just. My memory sucks.
It's hard to keep up. There's millions of them around, and like you say, they'll have all these, and they'll still have one called all-in-one. But which ones you want will depend on your car, and it's best to always start with the softest approach to polishing first, and seeing, try a test spot, see what your results are. Do you like it? Okay, I wasn't impressed or didn't get the clarity or level of correction I wanted. Then go to a higher grade and refinish with the grade above that to get that finish that you want as well. But anyway, sorry, Cartec. Or any system, Rupes, Auto Brights, there's loads to choose from. They're the ones
Menzerner. I'm a Menzerner nerd.
Yeah, the two I know the most though are Cartec and Auto Brights. They're the ones that I've used the most and got the results, and I feel happy and comfortable using. So Cartex would be the colour corresponding pads to polish products. Use the white polish with white pad. You can mix and match. Again, this is another topic for a later time. But they design it so that you could use, for example, a single stage polish in this way or method, basically. Yeah, thought so. So, yeah, sorry, Ross. I'd like to go into some more detail this with you. I know you know a fair bit about polishing yourself as well. It'd be great to discuss this further, and we'll do a whole dedicated episode to this one as well. But we have run out of time today. We didn't mean to go on as long last week. We kind of got carried away and started.
Yeah, we had less nerves this week, more confidence, a plan and a time frame.
Yeah.
And we are reaching the end of the day now, so
we've
got to wrap it up.
So thank you for viewing. Cheers for the questions. I hope we answered them all okay for you. And like I say, Ross will try and answer this better in the the discussion about polishing next time as well. We'll have a bit of a script and some examples to follow and give people who are interested in this, because this is the true bit of detailing coming up. The polishing is.
It depends really. It's important, but my favourite part.
It's the most satisfying part. It's the bit
you're
looking for when you say a car's been detailed. But yeah, thank you for viewing. We'll see you next week.
Once again, anyone comment any questions? We for ideas in the future. If there's anything you want to know, then follow up.
Yeah,
in the comment
on the
later.
video. Premiere page, or me and Nathan might spot it, and we'll do our best to answer the question as well. So
yeah, excellent guys.
Yeah.
Cheers
See you
again.
next week.
See you later.
And there we go. If you end this video now.